The Women in Music Speaker Series has developed into the hallmark of the sorority's national programs. An integral component of district and national conventions, this program engages our members by providing the opportunity to meet women who work in various aspects of the music profession, including professional performers, music therapists, and educators. This program attempts to connect women in our mission statement by giving women in music a face. For the spring 2020 district convention season, our district conventions ventured into the virtual space to host all of our business meetings via Zoom and live stream to respective district Facebook pages. For our April 4th, 2020 Southeast District and North Central District conventions, we hosted Dr. Courtenay Harter, Jennifer Ryder, and Beth Bronk for our Women in Music speaker panel. Associate Professor Courtenay Harter currently teaches music theory, oboe and English horn, and coaches chamber music at Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. Most recently, Dr. Harter has been the point person in the development of an interdisciplinary major in music and psychology and teaches courses in the curriculum including psychology of music. Her previous teaching appointments include Georgia State University, Oberlin's College Conservatory of Music, and the University of Connecticut. Outside of working with Rhodes College, Dr. Harter is currently on the board of directors of the Memphis Youth Symphony Program and also does research for the Cambodian Harpswell Foundation and their music program, specifically working with women. Jennifer Ryder attended South Carolina State University, where she received a Bachelor of Science in Music Education Instrumental. She was initiated into the Epsilon Chi chapter at South Carolina State University in spring 1999 and is a life member. During her time as an undergrad, she served on several leadership roles, including band club treasurer, assistant treasurer for the chapter. She was a clarinetist and a member of the Marching 101 and SCSU Symphonic Band. She is a master's in education leadership from the Citadel and an educational specialist from Walden University. Upon graduation, Jennifer was a band director in Charleston County School District and Clarendon 2nd School District in South Carolina. Jennifer currently is a middle school band director for Clayton County Public Schools in Atlanta, Georgia metro area with over 18 years of experience. And finally, Professor Bronk is in her 14th year as a director of bands at Texas Lutheran University, where she teaches conducting, instrumental music, education courses, and directs the TLU bands. She earned her Bachelor's of Music Performance Certificate and Teaching Certification at the University of Texas at Austin, a Master's of Music in Trumpet Performance from the University of North Texas, and is writing her doctoral dissertation on band director expertise in innotation instruction to complete her studies at Teachers College, Columbia University. Welcome our Women in Music speaker panel.
And so we're going to go ahead and jump into our panel discussion. So my first question comes with a thought for all of my Westworld fans out there. If you've ever seen the show Westworld, all of the characters have a cornerstone, a memory or thing in their whole story that their whole story is kind of organized around. For my panelists, actually for Dr. Harter, what is your cornerstone in regards to your path and career in music? What has brought you here and keeps bringing you back?
There's actually a couple little points to that. The original one is I was not a music major when I started college. I actually started as an architect major and failed out because I was practicing too much. This must tell you something. And it was that one time when I got a chance to play principal oboe on a Brahms symphony, and the flute player next to me kept going, "I bet you can't do that again." And I kept doing it again and again, and there you go. And I was like, oh, maybe I actually could do this. And then as it turns out, well, my parents are both high school teachers. That was not part of the plan to become a teacher. But it did actually end up happening. And it was later in my undergrad, actually, one of my professors asked me to help tutor some students in music theory. And I was good at it, and I helped my students. And she said, you can do this for a living. And I just kind of went, oh, and those are kind of like the two little kernels that have gotten me at least this far. So yeah, when I think about where I started, I have to go back to undergrad, and thank goodness that had happened that way. So
nice. Jennifer, what is your cornerstone?
For me, it was actually a couple of things. One, I come from a family of educators. I always knew I kind of wanted to be an educator, but I wasn't sure on what subject or what area. I would say it was my aunt Sarah, who was an educator. That was my main cornerstone. That focused on educator. That pushed me to do the best I could do and to help others get there and to succeed with whatever they plan to do in life. And then secondly, I would say that pushed it all the way over was my middle school and high school band director, which was a female band director. So actually being able to see a band director who was a female, that is what definitely set it on stone. And she gave me the opportunities, to lead the band, and that's what got me interested in becoming a band director.
Nice. And was she you said your high school director?
This is what happened. She started as my middle school director, and when I got to ninth grade, the high school director left, and guess who applied for that position? So I had the same band director from middle school to high school.
Wow. That's awesome. And also that, like, having a female in that role, being
Correct.
able to kind of develop you through the beginning stages and kind of releasing you out into the collegiate world to go, become a female band director yourself.
Yes.
Very cool. Awesome. And Beth, what is your cornerstone?
No, it was interesting thinking about this, but to tie a few things together, when I was younger, I had a couple of trumpet excerpts that I really loved back in the late 70s when the Waltons were on every Sunday night. There was a trumpet solo at the beginning, and I loved that. And then I had another soundtrack that was my favorite, and it was the soundtrack from Annie. And they had a little kind of a 5-piece sort of Dixieland kind of combo on it, and the trumpet player on there. I just loved him. Anyway, so I got a new trumpet teacher when I was in high school and in college, and it had been a long time since I heard either of those, and I heard both of those recordings several years ago, and I realized it was him on those recordings, and that was exactly right. It was Ray Crisera, and he had moved from being a studio musician in New York to teaching at the University of Texas at Austin, and I studied with him all the way through high school and college, and that sound was just in my head in a way that I've never forgotten, and Courtenay, it was interesting. I was not a music major when I started college either, and thank goodness found my way back. But I was still taking lessons from him and playing in absolutely everything, and couldn't figure out why I wasn't as interested in biochemistry as I thought I would be. So anyway, but I think it's a sound for me, and it was a sound of his great playing and articulation. And it's so funny to go back and realize that he was the studio musician on those recordings. So that's it for me.
That's awesome. Having what you said, like a sound from your childhood that kind of just kept, drawing you, continuing to keep you as part of it. So really cool. Thank you all for sharing that. And so as you've all kind of developed and have your cornerstone that's brought you to where you are as educators, musicians, I want to kind of go into leadership. So what has been one of the most satisfying leadership roles that you all have had? And Dr. Courtenay, I'll use your first name. Can you tell us what one of your most satisfying leadership moments has been?
Yeah, it took me a while to try and figure that out, actually, but it's actually something that happened most recently. We have a Bachelor of Arts program only at my school, and we had some students who were trying to figure out how to go from where we are here to music therapy programs. And we were trying to find some nice ways to do that, and they were like, oh, it'd be great if we had a really good, cool major that would help us do that. And I kind of held up my hand because it was something I had been interested in when I did my master's work and never got a chance to kind of go forward with. So this development of the music and psychology interdisciplinary program, I got to work with my colleagues in the psych department a lot to kind of finesse this and woodshed out a program that would work within our curriculum. And it got me back into doing some of this research. So in a sense, it's the leadership of someone just handing you off this thing and said, yeah, see what you can do with this, and then going and putting all the parts together. So it was kind of a little bit of a puzzle, working with other colleagues and then getting a chance to kind of go and rediscover, in a sense, a new field that I'm trying to develop as we go. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that, finding a way to make it happen. say where there's a will, there's a way, finding a way for those students to have that connection from where they are to where they want to go, and really being a big part of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think the biggest thing about that was literally someone just mentioning it, and I said, hey, I'll do that, and they let go and let me actually take the reins and just kind of run with it and see what happens. So that was a nice part.
I love it. I like how leadership sometimes is just saying, I can do this, and, going from there. Jennifer, what has been one of your most satisfying leadership roles that you've been able to experience?
Yeah, one of my most satisfying roles have been actually being just a mentor teacher and teacher coach. That's something I've been doing for years now. There's actually a certification in Georgia that you have to go through to become a teaching coach and a mentor. But with that, I enjoy helping beginner teachers, also my veteran teachers. I'm also like the department chair for my school for fine arts. So one thing I find, even though we were in different subjects of fine arts, I was able to help them with those things like classroom management, lesson planning, the different things like that. So that's been one of my most fulfilling, satisfying roles, helping those people, because what I found in just reading from different research, if you can keep a teacher in for 3 years, they may stay in. A lot leave between 0 and 3 years. And so I think it's very important when a new teacher start, or a beginner teacher start, or someone new who's transitioning from a different career, that they're given that coach or that mentor person that can carry them along. And then eventually you let them go, but they know that they can come back to you for help.
I love that. And again, the part of developing other people is the way that kind of keeps you. I feel like is that also part of your cornerstone as well? Maybe a piece of it is just not just where you come from, but also what you're able to contribute and give to other members. Sure. I love that. And Beth, what has been the most satisfying leadership role that you have had?
Sure. Well, it was hard to pick. The first one that came to mind, of course, was I got to spend 4 years as the national vice president for professional relations for the sorority. And that was amazing. And I learned so much from that. But I think the 12 years that I spent as the president of our Texas Music Educators Association, Region 12, probably was the most satisfying. It was right after I left teaching at New Braunfels High School and was teaching at Texas Lutheran. And I went ahead and took that on, and I did it for the next 12 years. And it was great because I didn't have a competing group. I didn't have students going to a contest. It wasn't about that at all. It was really about helping to organize our region, helping to make, what we did fair and thoughtful for kids and families, and also the teachers that were there. And it helped me meet so many people from this area. It was really valuable to me. And I think kind of like the national vice president for professional relations position was really about giving to others. It really didn't have anything to do with me getting something back from those. And so I think those kind of positions are really special. And I really liked doing both of those a lot.
Nice. And if you really think about it, all three of y'all's kind of leadership role that you've been the most proud of or the most satisfying has been one where you're helping other people. And I think that's just a part of leadership as well, because not everybody does it to be the face of an organization or, in charge, but they do it to help lift other people up and organize them and help them to be great in whatever they're aspiring to do. And all of your satisfying roles and your careers, and kind of just giving our members just a little bit of advice. So looking back on your previous roles, your most satisfying leadership roles, what is some advice or a tip that you would give to our aspiring leaderships as they go into being leaders themselves? Courtenay, go ahead.
I thought about this a lot too. I've actually, now that I've become a tenured professor, I've been on a lot of different committee structures, and I've gotten to be chairs of those committees. So in a sense, leading at these little kernel levels as well. The best skill set I have are actually because I've developed as a musician, and it's listening. And if you take the time to listen versus stepping on everybody's toes when they're trying to get a point out, but just kind of letting them go with the flow and taking it all in, and listening is a big deal. And then the other part of it, of the listening, before I was tenured, I was actually secretary on a lot of committees, because that way I was always listening and making sure I was paying attention and taking notes. Those dictation skills we worked on so well, different kind of dictation, but nonetheless. So really, it's those musician skills that I can actually take into another forum and kind of use really well. And I've had a colleague recently who went, "Wow, I didn't think anybody heard me when I said that." And I'm like, "Nope, I got it right here." So they are very appreciative when they know they've been heard. So.
Absolutely. And as you're saying dictation, I am currently writing notes on my side screen over here for your tips for success. So thank you. Jennifer, what would be your biggest tip for aspiring leaders?
My favorite one is lead by example, and the rest will fall in place. Simply put, be accountable, be flexible, be transparent is a big one for me, and be an advocate. And if you can be a little bit of each one of those, I think you'll be as successful as a leader.
I love that. You said be transparent, be an advocate, be accountable, lead by example, and the rest will fall in place. Yes. I love it. If you see that on my Facebook as an infographic next week, it is attributed to you. And I love that, so be a great listener, as Courtenay says, and then leading by example, and that'll definitely take you really far. And then Beth, what's some of your advice that you have for our
Sure. Well, I think the first one is, you're in the middle of trying to become something in your career, whatever direction you're going in. And there are those people that are your mentors, the people that you look up to, and then you look around and you realize that as they retire out of the profession, what's left is you. And so I think being prepared to step up and saying yes when you have an opportunity, even if it's a little bit scary. Say if you look at something and you go, "Man, I think that's going to stretch me, but I think I can do it." Say yes and do it. And I think that's the way we give back professionally and personally to what we do. And then at the end of things, never forget that someone needs to help clean up. And it's good if that's still you, So if you're in a leadership role, at the end, someone's got to pick up the napkins and cups and straighten the chairs, and that's not necessarily for someone else to do. That's still your job too. So anyway, kind of a combination of those two things. But that's kind of been my thought about that in the last couple of days, thinking about these questions.
Nice. And when you said somebody needs to help clean up, it reminds me of a book that I recently read that was essentially about taking your organization to the next level. Can't remember the name right now, but the first chapter, he talks about a toothpick that was on the floor in the hallway of an office building, and people kept walking by it and nobody picked it up. And so one day, the CEO of the company saw this toothpick, picks it up, and he was mad about it. He was like, "This has been here for days," and then a whole part of taking that initiative and kind of restructuring your organization to being those leaders that help to take care of anything that needs to be done, regardless of if you're the CEO or if you're the entry level person. So
right, yeah. And if you saw it there for days, then what about all the times you walked past it?
Yeah.
Why don't you do something about it? So yeah.
I love it. And so thank you all for your great advice for our aspiring leaders. And so I kind of want to transition into being a leader as a female. I saw a quote from Dr. Crystal Banfield, and she said, "In order for young women to have the opportunity to attain leadership positions, educational and leadership development needs to be geared towards both the male and female students. Leadership development classes should be all-inclusive with an equal emphasis on both men and women." Do you agree? Yes or no? And if you do, Courtenay, what do you think women are missing in their development as musicians or leaders alike that could be propelling them towards their future leadership potential?
Yeah, I do agree with it, and yet I kind of think about this going, I was never trained as a leader myself, and so, or at least I don't feel like I was given the training, and I still kind of look back going, gee, what am I still missing? And honestly, the biggest things I'm missing right now in my life are a way to dream bigger. Goal setting it's kind of funny as a musician, like you have the next concert, there's always a goal and you're done. And then you get on to the next piece of music in a sense. So there was always something going on, but thinking bigger is still kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm not really sure where my next research project might lead me in some ways. But the same thing happens in leadership. I'm not really sure where that next level is for me. I have a new great president on our campus who can kind of, she is in a great place to kind of help model that for me. And even at this point in my career, which is neat, I tend to be one of those worker bees where I like doing all the detailed work and let somebody else try and do the bigger picture. So I wish I had gotten some of that bigger picture dreaming and figuring out how to hone those skills a little bit better. So if you have a chance in your own lives, to go ahead and take it.
Yeah, and I definitely understand because, you know, it's in people's personalities. Not everybody is the visionary, like you're saying, that your president of university is. Some are just whatever, tell me what to do, I'll get it done exactly how you want it done. I know I can be that way sometimes. But I think it's just the development of it is kind of that give and take. You have to kind of tap into that creativity to be able to develop those programs or new initiatives, but then also understand the process that it would take kind of in your normal happy place of how to do it, is a leadership point that many people can kind of learn from. Very nice. Jennifer, do you agree or disagree?
Yes, I agree with Dr. Banfield. A lot of times I think as women we're missing support and the opportunity to just become leaders, simply put. We get sometimes into certain jobs, or we get really good stuff assigned to committees and service projects. And a lot of time with those things, they're very good things to be assigned, but it doesn't set us up in our career to become a leader or to lead. So like someone said earlier, one thing we got to do is we do have to put our voice out there a little bit more and be willing to step up and do and not be scared to become a leader, because there are different types of stereotypes out here. And sometimes I think our attitudes and judgments, you know, and decisions others make sometimes limit women to become those leaders that we need to become.
Absolutely. And it's again, I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks on leadership, and especially being a female in leadership. And Jennifer, you touched on another really good thing that I've listened to, was just not putting yourself or taking yourself out of that mold that people would automatically put you in, instead of being, because there's been cases where they'll call on the woman to take the notes in the meeting, even though you have something really important to say, and give somebody else the opportunity to speak. And so definitely speaking out about about what you want to, where you want to go as a leader. And as Courtenay was saying, even pushing yourself further from where your normal is, and letting other people have that opportunity as well to go into that leadership role that they're not used to. I love it. And Beth, what is your take? Yes,
sure.
No?
Absolutely, yes. And I think Jennifer really nailed two words: opportunity and encouragement. And I think that those are really, really important. And I think it's sometimes even as simple as saying to a young lady who's trying to go into the music field as a director, you can do this. You're going to be a good teacher. Kids are going to learn a lot from you. And I love when I sometimes I have a student that'll say, I think I'm going to be a positive influence on a lot of kids, or kids like me, or kids like the school where I came from. Man, there's nothing that makes me happier than that. Like that kind of confidence that you're going to change lives, and you're going to make the world a better place for the kids right there at where you are. And I'm finding out what works where you are. And so I love when I can kind of give that pat on the back and feel like I'm sending them out to try and make change, make things better. So anyway, yeah, I think opportunity and encouragement, you guys are exactly right about that.
I love it. In the spirit of opportunity and encouragement, that kind of takes me to my next question. How can women or men support women as they pursue their careers as music educators, performers, in other music-centric careers? Courtenay.
I think it's really about opening up the opportunity to come and observe. So in some ways, you have to take it yourself, is to kind of reach out and say, hey, I want to get better at X. Can I come watch you teach? Can I come watch you perform? Can I come watch you do these things? So that you can take that information back. And I would bet that most of us in these positions and the better educators would be totally willing to let others come in and watch them teach and glean something out of it. And then the other part of that is to ask people to come and watch you do your own teaching and take in that criticism or those observations, let's call it, versus criticism. But at the same time, it's kind of going, well, what else could I do to be better and meet my students where they are and bring them with me on those opportunities? So just making those opportunities and then giving back when people ask you to do it later in your career.
Sorry, I'm working on my notation skills. So being open to allowing people to observe you, and then also giving back when the time comes as well. I love that. And even if for some of our members who are not going into music education, or even if you still are, the idea of even observing is also kind of in line with an informational interview, learning more about what this role looks like as a music producer or a composer, and how you can go in and kind of develop your skills and everything to be in that role. So yeah.
I was gonna say, and I can say that, like, we have other students who go and like shadow in other disciplines. Like, I know the med school students, they're always going and shadowing. I think that should be something we pick up and do in all these other fields as well. It's great to go see somebody else in their environment and be able to learn from that and decide if that's where you need to be too. So
absolutely. I mean, even if they don't find that part of music is where they want to be, I've always seen that even just watching, Dirty Jobs or somebody do a YouTube video on some skill that I don't have, I'm able to pick up something little, either as a teaching, a way to teach something, or just something that'll improve me overall as a professional, as a leader, that I can take on with me wherever my path leads me. Nice. And Jennifer, what are your thoughts? How can women or men support women as they pursue careers in various music-centric?
Yes, I actually was thinking some of the same things that Courtenay spoke of, which personally, for me, that definitely helped me in my career. The peer observations, like she said, within the subject and out of the subject, because you can pick up a lot of different things from looking and going to observe different people. And once again, going back to that support as a male, if I'm a female band director and we have male band directors, allow me to speak if it's something that we're discussing, for instance, in a professional development, attending professional development. In my experience, somewhat as a female, you can say the same thing, and then sometimes your male colleagues say the same thing, but they take it, oh, he said it, so that's correct. But I just said the same thing. So once again, about speaking up and holding your point. I mean, as far as it goes, as far as your career. So a big thing is definitely observing as a male advocate, just being that advocate for females, supporting us in this career. We have the same type of experience, the same type of education. And when it comes time to recommend somebody to be a clinician or something, recommend that female band director, that musician, that performer. We're doing the same things that our male colleagues are doing. So if we can get our male advocates just to push us out there, support us, remember our names also, that would help the situation, definitely.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of ties in what you were saying earlier about women being pushed into certain roles, and really having men recognize and see our leadership potential and skills that we already have, to help be an advocate. I love that. And that definitely ties into my next question. But Beth, what is your advice on how men and women can support other women?
Yeah, I think that is going to tie in really nicely with your next question. But I think I think provide opportunities, provide support, then don't micromanage and don't think everyone's going to do things the same way, and allow the results to speak for themselves. So I think, when you give somebody a job, let the people who are actually doing the work figure out how to do the work, but support them in doing that. Don't provide your advice, provide your support, but then let them do the job. And so I think that's really important, both for men and women, to do with younger colleagues, right? And one of the things as music educators, we have an advantage of being able to create our own colleagues, honestly. And talk about that with our students that are taking secondary methods close to student teaching, or our student teachers, that they're very close to being my colleagues in the future. And I want to support them and be respectful of them as they start to make their own way, and help them get to the places that they want to be. But the relationship changes because they become a colleague, right? So anyway, yeah, and I think that leads real nicely into your next question.
All right, and I love what you said about give them the opportunities and essentially just let them lead. And then I think after that, it gives you the opportunity. I think that's just a good overall advice for developing leaders and working with people, is let somebody lead. And, if they ask for your feedback, or if you can give it in a constructive way, definitely doing it in a way that helps build them as a leader and a director, musician, in different ways. And so going into our next question, Jennifer kind of started alluding to it. The last question that I have is actually wanting to know you all's a little bit more about your experience and how ways that you've benefited or worked with a male advocate that has helped to advance your career. Courtenay, go ahead and you have some input on that one.
I did some prep, and now listening to everybody else talk, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, and then there was, like, even my high school band director, his big thing was, early is on time is late, and I've never lost that, and that's been part of my whole life. But my most recent advocate was actually my doctoral dissertation advisor, and he was sparse with his praise, but was always pushing me to do better, and yet was my advocate too. We had some issues with other people in the department, and he was a great person to go to. He always listened. He always helped us figure out solutions for problems, which was great. And yeah, he was very critical of my work and kept pushing me. And it turns out, he actually was praising me behind my back, but never told me to my face. So I heard it through the grapevine after I was leaving that he was really happy that I made it as far as I did, and did really well. And it would have been nice to get a little bit on the front side, but he was always in my corner. Whenever there was a problem, he was very happy to listen. He was very happy to kind of help me work through the problems and whatnot. So, I've had good, it's funny, I think about this I didn't have a lot of women role models coming up in the field, and yet I never noticed how strange that was until more recently in my career. But I got really lucky with the people and the men who worked with me to push me as far as I've gotten. So I'll stop there.
Very nice. And Jennifer, you kind of talked about it, started it earlier, but what has been one of your experiences with working with a male that's kind of helped you to propel you to where you are as a awesome woman?
Definitely. I would say it was some of my male colleagues that I attended college with. They were so supportive in my program. It may have only been, I would say, 3 or 4 females that were music majors. So I felt like the guys in the program, they pushed us, they supported us. If it was something that either one of us need, they gave me that full support. And even to this day, we have a very, very close relationship. I barely have to ask for things. If it's music, when I open up my email in the morning, things to help. Even in this digital learning that we're going through now with COVID-19, I wake up, I have 5 or 6 emails from these guys. Things I'm doing, things, sharing. That's one big thing. So I can name 4 or 5 guys that I attended college with that really supported me and still support me to this day. We're really good friends. I won't say friends, like family members. They've become to me. And I really feel supported by my college band director, who's deceased now. But him and another guy I did not know, was sitting in my room, maybe my second year of graduating, second year of teaching. I got a call from a county and they said, someone recommended you for a job. I'm like, who recommended me for a job? And later on, kind of like Courtney said, it was maybe a year later, I found out it was my college band director. That I was like, what? He recommended me? So I felt honored like that. So I would say my college band director, Mr. Ronald Sargent, and then 4 or 5 guys that I attended college with that are very, very supportive up until this day.
I love that. And I hope that all of our students realize that their peers in college, like Beth was saying earlier, they'll become their colleagues as they, go through their careers. So definitely developing the relationships that they have now, creating those contacts professional, if anything, that'll definitely be able to help you if you need a clinician or even looking for a job or a recommendation on something. I always attribute my professional success to Tau Beta Sigma, because every job that I received is because of somebody in Tau Beta Sigma or Kappa Kappa Psi. Creating those relationships with people has helped me to kind of get to where I am. And definitely it's great to hear that you, Jennifer, have been able to see that, reap the benefits of that as well into your professional life. And Beth, tell us your.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of think of it in stages of my career, and I think the first is my first teaching job. I was a first year teacher, and I was the head band director at a very small high school, and there was a middle school band director, and I was just like on fire, excited or mad or upset or whatever. And he was so calm all the time. And he would kind of pat me on the back and say, we'll try again tomorrow. It'll be okay. And I think he was such a great mentor for me, because he looked at everything we did in music as a long-term goal, not something that had to be mastered in a day, and so I think that was great for me. That was my first 3 years to teach. And then when I got to New Braunfels, but by the time that I had left, I worked with 3 men, and they are, to this day, I feel like they're my brothers and they're my best friends, and they supported me just immensely, and we were a very good team, and it was a really special group. Not many people, I don't believe, get to work with a group that works as well together as we all did. But even though there are plenty of female band directors now, still, when we would get off the bus at marching contests, a lot of times the monitor would go to my assistant Randy and start talking to him, and he would every time say, let me take you to our head director. And and I think just his calm way of doing that, and his consistency of just being respectful of his colleague, I think that was a special thing that he did for me every single time, and I can remember being in the press box at state marching contest and drawing for a position in the finals. And there were 12 bands in the finals. There were 11 male band directors, me, and 2 band moms and a secretary that was also a woman. And they didn't know whether to bring me coffee or show me where the ladies' room was, or it was really interesting to see that. But I knew that I had all that support back at school, and and that we got there together, that we were a good team and we got there together. And I think that the third part has been kind of post public school, the opportunities that I've gotten in, for example, International Bandmasters Fraternity Phi Beta Mu has, just to have some leadership roles in there, to head a committee, or to be asked to conduct an honor band. I do a lot of all region groups in Texas, and it's not the bio that I send that means the most to me. It's the nice introduction that somebody gets who knows me and says, happy to introduce Beth Bronk, and describes me in a way that I might not ever have described myself. And those are ways that I think I've benefited from those male advocates and female advocates. But it means a lot when the men in our profession treat you as an equal professional. And I think that's important, you know? So I think in those 3 stages, that's how that worked for me.
Nice. I even like it how your assistant he respects you so much. He directed them to you, like, here, come speak to our director. She can best tell you what to do. And I think, like you said, just those little instances kind of help to keep pushing you forward as a leader, and kind of makes you feel good too. Well, thank you, ladies, for your input on those. I actually have put in the chat for any of people inside of the group to send any questions. We have a couple of really good questions. The first comes from Morgan with Ada Lambda. Do you have a woman who has acted as a role model for you as you grew up in music? And what impact did she make on you? And if you did not have that, what would you like to leave as a legacy? I can let whoever would like to answer that question can go ahead and go first.
Keep going in order. I actually realized my oboe teacher from high school actually is kind of like my female role model in ways, and she kind of kept me on the path to kind of music in general. But I actually ended up going back to her when I was debating about what doctoral program to apply to. And she kind of was the one who actually pushed me to go and get my PhD in music theory versus a DMA in performance. She said, you're smart enough, you've been doing this long enough, go get that big PhD because that'll get you noticed. And then she goes, you can always keep performing, and I have. So to this day, which is great. So it was kind of neat she was my high school teacher. She's actually performing in the Los Angeles Philharmonic now. So, and then we've kept in touch ever since. So when I taught in California, I got to have lessons with her again as a grown-up, and then I got this great advice from her. So we've kept in touch for many, many years now. So that's kind of neat to have that across.
That's awesome. Definitely having somebody that is rooting for you. Like you said, your other director wasn't very forthcoming with this praise, but having that person who's like, you're awesome, keep going. That's definitely a great thing for you as a development as a music educator and professional. Anyone else? Jennifer, go ahead.
Okay, I think I spoke on it earlier, but it was definitely my middle school and high school band director, Dr. Darby, and I still keep in contact with her, and she's actually still a music educator, near retirement, over retirement, I think, but she's been very instrumental in my life as far as pushing me as a female band director, and for me, leaving a legacy behind. Like someone spoke earlier, I now have students that are colleagues, like right along with me. In fact, I've had last year my student that was with me a few years ago actually teaching the county with me. So it's amazing that he's a second year band director this year in the county, and we're working along beside each other, and he's still coming to professional development sessions and still getting that advice from me, even though he's a male. But one big thing is for me is being able to show that I can be a mentor and then push them to be a mentor to help other people as they come into the field.
Nice. I love it. And Beth?
Sure. Well, growing up in Austin, for some reason, not common at the time, there were a lot of really good female band directors. Verna Harrington, Verna Covington, and Paula Kreider were all teaching in Austin at the time. And then my own high school band director, Cindy Michael, who's a dear friend to this day. As a matter of fact, she was a guest speaker in one of my online classes yesterday, and is just a friend and has been a mentor and a role model to me for a long time. And then when I went to college, when I went to UT, Paula Kreider went to UT, and as the assistant director of bands, and so I got to study with her through college. And so I think that seeing those people do the jobs that I have done now or am doing now was just so crucial to my own ability to imagine myself in that position. And So I think that they definitely were, my role models. And then to kind of tie that into the next part of the question, which is, I think it's open market. I don't think there are jobs for women and jobs for men anymore. There are jobs, and people find their way into them. And so I wouldn't let gender identity, any socioeconomic nothing should stop us anymore. And so I think, trying to look into a future without those dividing lines, I think, and making them go away, getting rid of those glass ceilings and seeing people that you respect and admire move through those glass ceilings. I think that's the key to our future, where people truly can be whatever they want to be and do whatever they want to do. And so that's, I think those people helped me become who I am. And I hope that I can help other people do that, whether it's in music or in something else, by providing that reference letter or that recommendation, or, whatever it takes to help them move forward.
Absolutely. And thank you. And what Beth was kind of alluding to was were you looking at the second question that was in the chat? Lauren from Ada Lambda had asked, how would you say that being a woman has enabled you to encourage the aspirations of other women in predominantly male occupied professions, or alternately males who go into a role that has a larger female presence? And I definitely agree that the glass ceiling has already been broken by women like yourselves who have blazed the trail and done great things in your profession. And so I think, as they say, the only limit is yourself. We're creating glass ceilings for ourselves at times with, going into a profession that is male dominated or female dominated or whichever. And so I definitely think that. I definitely agree with what you said, Beth. Any of you ladies have any input on that same one? How has being a woman enabled you to go into or break the glass ceilings, I guess?
I feel like I'm still breaking the ceilings, but no, Beth is right. In weird ways, it's getting to that point where we stop worrying about all these definitions of gender and race and all sorts of things, that it really doesn't matter. We want the best people to do their best and keep going forward. And I'm always encouraging my students to do that. And it's kind of fun when they come back to me later saying, I remember being in your class and this is why I got to this point. And that just, it's like, oh, good. A little praise that I need some days on those lower days when you're not seeing your students in live anymore. And it's kind of nice, but it's just about being the best person you can be, and just, setting your own glass ceilings and breaking them all the time. So.
Jennifer, any input?
I agree with Beth and Courtney. As far as we gonna have to definitely pave our way, continue to do what we're doing as far as breaking glass ceilings and shine bright like a diamond. We really got to shine. That still comes into play, just knowing that handbook, knowing the rules, that will push you forward. If you learn your job, the rules, the handbook. No one can tell you anything different. So we just have to have the prior knowledge and continue to build on that knowledge as we, go along in our careers, because, definitely it has improved over years. Where I see it's not, but if music is supposed to be truly universal, then we need to, break past the gender thing, break past music's supposed to be colors, universal, genderless. So those are things we still are dealing with today, but I do feel that it's gotten better. But we just have to when we're faced with those type of things, we have to push forward and overcome them.
Absolutely. And I'm going to check the chat one more time, see if we have any additional questions. Sorry, for some reason I keep losing the chat box. Oh, there it is. It looks like we don't have any other questions. So I will go ahead and thank everyone who has joined in to watch along either on a live stream or here in the group. And thank you, ladies, for your wonderful discussion and conversation on just being a leader and how to develop women as other leaders in the music profession.